Hello, and thank you for joining us for this episode of the Marketing Guides for Small Business podcast. My name is Ian Cantle, and I'm joined by Jen, Ken, and Paul. And together, we're your marketing guides. Systems are everywhere in your business. You have accounting systems, service delivery systems, customer management systems, human resources systems, even your facilities run on systems with security systems and heating and ventilation and cooling systems. Systems, when they are working at their best, are practically invisible. They do what they do to ensure everything runs smoothly, and it's often when there's a problem that the system becomes apparent or the lack thereof. So, systems are vital to your business. In the same way, you need a marketing system. Marketing has become a complex orchestration of numerous strategies, tactics, tools, platforms, and best practices, with expertise needed to not only perform the work, but to truly make it work for your business. In the midst of this challenging environment, the concept of a systematic approach to marketing has risen as the answer to aligning all your marketing efforts to get maximum results. And in this podcast, we'll explore what a marketing system is, why you need one, what it looks like in a real business, and what the results are. So let's jump in and explore the topic that could radically help your business. Now, let's start by looking at what a system is. The definition of a system is a collection of elements or components that are organized for a common purpose. That's a definition of system. But Jen, I thought you could start by sharing what is a marketing system.
What is a marketing system? So it's too bad. Can we put up the image, or is that too weird to do while we're live?
That's a good question.
Okay, let's leave that for another episode to try. Well, it's the kind of thing because I don't know if you guys have had the same experience or our audience is going to feel it right now. But when you talk about a system, you can understand, okay, how a system of events happens. Or my favorite to start off is talking about a payroll system, right? Most businesses of any size that we deal with have a payroll system, right? People aren't going to get paid unless you're in the system, and you have to be, adjusted for whatever the negotiated rate is. And are you paying people every 2 weeks, every month? And it happens like clockwork, if we will. The thing about that payroll system, if we stick on that for a second, you're not getting paid every 2 days, then every 2 months, then every 6 weeks. And it's that kind of lack of a system where we see folks that don't have a marketing system start to try to get their marketing out into the world in that kind of ad hoc way, right? We're going to do something this week, this month, and they don't run it in a way that's like clockwork. Right. And then when I say, well, you wouldn't pay your people every 2 days, then every 2 weeks, then every 6 weeks, they're like, yeah, no, of course we wouldn't. So why are you operating your marketing in the same way and then saying, oh, I'm not sure if it works for us? That's where you can get into that kind of situation. So when you bring the idea of a system into something kind of conceptual like marketing, the best way to think about it is that, first of all, you need some kind of plan. And then once the plan is agreed upon, and what I mean by agreed upon is that the business owner and those in your leadership group agree that this idea, the plan for marketing, is going to support the business's growth and is in line with where we want to take the business this year, this decade, that kind of thing, depending on how far out you're looking. And then within that marketing plan will be guidance on what kind of marketing things, tactics you can implement in order to make that marketing plan come to life. And in the system that we talk about, every element of marketing builds upon each other. There are some reasons why you do certain things ahead of other certain things so that you have the work already done, that you are not reinventing the wheel, and that you really truly are building upon what came before. And when you operate that way, it does a number of different things. It keeps the messaging, it keeps the whole system running very smoothly. It keeps everything on brand. So visibly and within your copywriting and your messaging, things are coming out to the world that are on brand, that makes sense for your company, that is showing your differentiation. And it's the kind of thing that you're not reinventing the wheel on. So within a marketing system, we always start with strategy. And so you've heard us talk about strategy first in that program. So if you think about that being your marketing plan, and then with on that, we're building on top of it. And then as a system doesn't only, go around and do its thing once, it's a system that is working ongoing. So there'll be different areas of your marketing. Some things are going to deploy once a week, for example, perhaps a marketing newsletter. Some things are going to deploy once a month, perhaps a monthly campaign. So the whole marketing strategy, marketing plan is going to set out for you what things are happening quicker than others and what the cadence is. So in a nutshell, that's what a marketing system is. So you've got your plan, you've got your tactics, you've got essentially when they're firing and how fast they're going to be moving. And the real importance of it is that everything if you think about it, everything that's built on top of that plan is going to look and feel exactly like it's coming from your company.
Awesome. And Ken, I thought the next logical question would be, how does a system work? Jen touched on it a little bit, but can you go a little bit deeper into how a marketing system works?
Yeah, well, I think you have to define what the components of the system are, and it needs to align with not only your business goals and objectives and who your ideal clients are and where they're spending time online, what channels you need to be using, but I think there's an element of maturity there that I always draw from from my previous experience and coming from the world of software engineering, where we had this thing called the capability maturity model. And when you're writing software where people's lives are at stake, if the system fails, you've got to make sure that those systems don't fail. So so there are maturity levels that were defined, and there were 5 levels. This was done by Carnegie Mellon. It's a fantastic thing, and it was the type of thing that when companies started to outsource to IT organizations, especially offshore, they started to put requirements that you had to maintain at least a CMM level 3, where and so when you look at the hierarchy there, you've got anarchy, or chaos, which is level 1. I mean, there is no system. Stuff just happens as it happens. You may get a lot of great results. Those great results are typically based on heroic acts of great people that you have. If they leave, there's no institutional knowledge, and so that's gone. So there's no systematization there. And things just happen willy-nilly because somebody's like, oh, I'm going to do this today. I'm going to do this today. They may be making good choices. You may be able to get away with that for a while. The next level is repeatability. And that's where you start to define a set of key process indicators or a set of key tactics that you want to leverage to really upgrade the performance and really start to build out your system. And then it's managed, it's directed, and then it's optimized. And that's from the capability maturity model. So, with Duct Tape, we've created a marketing maturity model that, kind of mimics that a little bit. It looks at level of sophistication in terms of if you're first just getting started, you need to do this set of tactics, and you need to be doing all of these to really kind of get that foundational level in place so that everything can work in conjunction with each other. That you're starting to be able to get repeatable results, because really, the goal, and I come from a solutions background. So, for me, I get excited about this because I love to build stuff and try to optimize it. And then, it just runs. And so, now you can continue to add layers on top of that. You may be starting out, you may have a marketing budget of $1,000 a month that you can invest. Well, obviously, you can't do all of the things that many times we would like to prescribe that you could do, we get it. I mean, it's your budget, it's your situation. It could be tied to the economics of the deal and the value of the clients that you serve. But you still should put some foundational things in place, and they should be done with a purpose. And I think system is really taking that and making sure that you're doing things with a purpose to try to meet some specified goal or objective. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, no, it was good, and a few words popped out. I love your example of the hierarchy and how that's an important framework to understand. One of the things that sets aside businesses that are doing really well from a marketing perspective and those that aren't. This has been well documented over tens of years now, but it's consistency. Consistency is one of the biggest things that's missing from businesses that, may be investing in marketing, but aren't seeing results. And so when you guys are talking about a systematic approach with foundational elements that will pave the way to, first of all, it'll get your business moving in the right direction. But then those are the foundational building blocks that you can continue to build upon in order to take your business to the next level.
Yeah.
Paul, what parts and subsystems are often part of a marketing system? I think a marketing system is pretty complex. We would often see there's a lot of moving parts in there. So I almost see it as an engine, and an engine, like an internal combustion engine, has lots of different micro systems in there. It's got the electrical system, it's got the fuel system, it's got the braking system, right? There's all sorts of systems in there that actually help you get from point A to point B. And I think a marketing system is similar. Can you talk a little bit about some of the common parts and subsystems within a marketing system?
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, you have to have a plan. You have to have a strategy in place. And this day and age, it really kind of starts with a website. And how complex your website has to be depends on the businesses. Some businesses just need a professional looking website. Some businesses need a lot of different kinds of functionality. You have to have that in place. And then you have content. You have to have, we talk about content marketing a lot. You have to have that. You have to have a way to develop content on different platforms. And, you have social media, and you have YouTube videos, you have blogs. Then you have, we call it reputation management. Usually that's really Google reviews. You have to have a system in place to get reviews. We've talked about in previous podcasts, people, if you don't have a system in place to get reviews, you're probably not going to get them, because people tend to leave reviews when they're not happy, because being irritated is a stronger motivation factor than being happy or being satisfied. So you have to ask for those reviews. Then there's you have things, email marketing and pay-per-click advertising. You have to, another part of it is having lead magnets and having a try offer that we've talked about. You have to have a way to capture leads, an automation system that's, really come to the forefront in recent years, where response time is absolutely critical. So you have to have, if someone fills out a form or they call and you miss that call, you have to have a way to respond to them. And a lot of that comes down to automation. So there's the automation factor. And all of these things are part of that system, that marketing system. And most small businesses don't have the internal resources to put all of this in place. They don't have the knowledge. I mean, that's not their job. They're trying to build their business. but you still have to have them in place and guarantee. If you don't, your competitors probably do, or some of your competitors do. And if they're putting this marketing system in place and you're not, then you're going to lose out to them.
Yeah. I like how you and there's a graphic that Ken shared. Actually, if Jen, do you mind, before we move on to the next question, just because I think this was helpful from when you were talking, do you mind just walking through this real quick?
Yeah, sure. I'd love to. I'm glad. Thank you for for trying something on the fly there, Ken. This is awesome, because this is, I mean, you know what? It just getting this whole idea to one slide is so amazing. And no matter who I've shown this to, whether they really, really understand marketing or they're just kind of getting their feet wet with being responsible for, making decisions around their company's marketing, I have heard nothing but good things about this diagram. And they say, oh yeah, like I get it. Now I see where everything comes in together. And now I see how I can have kind of I was going to say blinders on, but now I see how I can like stay focused no matter what new thing comes out in the market that I can use to promote my business. I can put it back into this kind of system diagram and see where it could come along. So let's do a good walkthrough for the description of this. So right in the middle, you see something called strategy. So when we talk about strategy first, the marketing plan, that's what that is. So everything starts from that, because there is no point in getting started at any of these 7 points around the strategy without a strategy. And the important thing about that is, like, you know what, if you're going on a road trip, if you're not having a plan where you're going to end up, you know what, you can just wander. And for sure on a road trip, that can be super fun, but probably not super profitable, right? So when we're dealing with marketing for our businesses, we have to make sure that there's a real plan behind it. So everything starts with the strategy. And then the first thing that we suggest is the website. So whether you're just starting out, you don't have a website yet, or you need your website updated or revamped, the strategy will help do that in the way that a website has visuals and copywriting on it. So what visuals are you going to choose? What copywriting are you going to use? What kind of sections are you going to have on your website? That's all going to be driven by the strategy. So it's going to be a much more well thought out way to start planning a website now that you have the guidance of the strategy. After you have your website up and running, a website, much like a garden, has to be, fed and watered. You really do need to be putting out consistent information that's new on your website, and whether that be daily, whether that be monthly, quarterly, at some type of cadence that makes sense for both your business and your customers, you have to be adding to that website. So that's where in stage number 2 comes what we call the content platform. So content, whether it be videos, podcasts, blogs, diagrams, infographics. So the content that you're using to tell the story about your business, about the products and services that you serve, about how you can help, about your differentiation, that comes into number 2. And you can see how, okay, I got to have a place, a website to put this stuff on. So I got to have the website built before I start thinking about how often I'm going to do the blogging or how often we're going to put new videos up. So that's how, when we talk about each stage building on the last, this is what we mean. So you've got your website, you've got a robust content program happening. Now you can start to think about search engine optimization, SEO, because if you don't have the content, SEO, like, you can't be found, because what are people going to search for that they're going to find if you don't have the content, if you don't have the website? So this is, again, how it all builds upon each other. After that, we suggest the social media engagement. And on this one, there's different social media channels out there. We would suggest you do some research and, as much as possible, put your own either favoritism or negative bias away when you're thinking about what are the best social media platforms for your business to use. Because your personal preferences or hatred towards, that's what we find, certain social media channels might actually be hurting your business. So just take that with a grain of salt there. But that's the thing too. Now you see how that can build on the search engine optimization. You're using hashtags, you're using certain words in the description of what you're selling on social. And your content platform. So you've got the blog, for example, perhaps you're sharing that out on social. You're going to have nothing to share on social if you don't have your content in stage 2 starting to be developed. So again, this is how everything builds upon each other. And now you can start to see how, okay, if we've decided what social channels to be on, what are we going to share? It's pretty easy now to look back and go, oh, we have all this content that we're producing that is on brand, that is talking about our product services. This is what we'll share, and we know it's on brand. We know we're saying the right things in the post blurb. We know we're sharing the right types of images, and we're not reinventing the wheel, right? We're basing it on work we've done ahead of time. When we come around to number 5, reputation management, this is your online reviews. So this is the kind of thing that where else can people leave online reviews for you if they can't be read. So for example, if you don't have a Google business profile set up, which would happen in section number 4, it's going to be really hard for people to leave you Google reviews. Or if you're going on any of the other sites, whether it's software specific review sites or whether it's restaurant specific review sites, if folks can't read those reviews about you and then somehow come back to your website to find out more about you, to either book with you, book a call, book a demo, book a table, how's that going to be working for you? So again, you see how it all builds on what comes before. Number 6, email marketing. So here's where we suggest that you are getting out your either monthly or weekly newsletter, some kind of deal email newsletter, some kind of communication with people that know about your business and have signed up to hear more from you. This is very important because if we both go back to step number 4, social media, while it's an excellent thing to use to promote your business, those social media channels at any time can change how, we've all been through this in the last few years, how much of your content they show people, what's going on with their ads, that kind of thing. So if you are using social media to get the word out there, that's great, but you have to try to really focus on building your own list, and email marketing can help you do that. But of course, it's going to be tougher to start an email marketing list, trying to get out a robust email marketing program without anybody on your list. So that's why we have it at stage number 6. After all these stages are up, running, going pretty well for you, number 7, that's where we'd start to introduce some pay-per-click. That's where we'd start to introduce some advertising, so actually paying for ads. Now, there is some debate. There are some situations where introducing advertising a lot earlier in the system can very much work for you. Just generally, what we see, if people want to, run out of the gate and start advertising, that can often be, a poor use of your advertising budget. So that's why we put it at the end here after a lot of your system is already up and running. And by going through this type of system, you're going to just naturally kind of get a master's in marketing for your own business anyways, and really start to understand how it all fits together and really start to see how this is a system that can make marketing very streamlined and very effective for your business.
That's awesome. Thanks for walking through that, Jen. And just so our listeners and viewers understand, a system like this doesn't have to take months to set up. It can be set up rather quickly by agencies like our own, right? Like how quickly can a system like this be set up? Can it be set up in a month? Can it be set up in 2 months? What's your experience been?
Well, that silly website always takes longer than we'd like, even though we have a plan for it. But all kidding aside, let's say you have a website that just needs some content to be populated on it. Let's start there. I would say you're going to see this starting to work within 4 weeks. I would say that's where the business owner will start to go, oh, I see. Okay, I see how this is starting to come together. I would say 4 weeks.
Yeah. Similar, Ken?
Yeah, I mean, I maybe approach this differently than you guys. I really like to come in and triage the situation, and I want to understand what's going on with the business, and they just may need a fast infusion of cash, right? And so if if they've got decent or better materials, like they already have a pretty solid website, you don't have to build out this entire system. You can go straight to running pay-per-click ads to generate revenue to fuel the rest of, the marketing activities to get yourself to the point where you can build this system. I just like to be pragmatic. I mean, in the best of all possible worlds, you'd be able to build a strategy and go through this wheel, but not every business can afford it, nor should they make this level of investment. Because not every one of these may be exactly right for every business. While I certainly think, at least, there are levels. Okay, so we've talked about restaurants before, and there's an element of SEO that needs to be in place, but that's going to be largely driven around a presence on Yelp, a presence on Google Business Profile, maybe TripAdvisor. Their website, it's not like the kind of website you're going to build for somebody who's buying, a kitchen or bath remodel, where you have to put a lot of content on that website, writing blogs on a regular basis, doing all that kind of stuff. So you have to kind of triage the situation. You have to, and this is where, even if you're not doing a formal strategy, if you're working with a true marketing consultant who's not a tool vendor, we're doing strategy work behind the scenes, even if it's not a paid part of our engagement, to help you get the best bang for the buck. So, again, I'm a little, you can't get me to say that any one way is always going to be the best way to go. That's just the way I'm wired.
Ken, I always throw this question caveat in when you say stuff like this. Would every business benefit from a marketing system?
Oh,
because here's the thing. We when we talk about restaurants, we often gravitate towards thinking quick serve. But there's premium restaurants out there that do require, they're selling premium quality food at premium quality prices, and they're competing with premium quality competitors, and they do require a good website, because that's actually where they will, get the like and the trust, and be able to own the platform to present their information, right?
Yeah.
And I even with most trades who we often think of not needing maybe highly sophisticated marketing systems, there's not a trade out there that I've come across that doesn't benefit from a marketing system.
I mean, ideally, yes, but it comes down to what's your definition of a system. For me, you can build a marketing system basically by leveraging social media and reviews. And that can be a starting point of a marketing system, because system is defining a set of components that are all working toward a common goal. And so it's not appropriate to say it's a marketing system. It may be a social media and reputation system, but they're still systems. So absolutely, I mean, the operative word for me is system.
Yeah.
You've got to have a system in place. Otherwise, it's chaos. You're at the mercy of maybe somebody who, and we live in this world right now where people are just up and leaving because they can, because they there's a desire for them to maybe try to do something more, better, different, safer with their lives. And so, if you're relying on that chaos level marketing approach where you're tied to the talent of that one person who happens to be in your organization and they walk away, I think you're pretty screwed. If it were me and I was running that business, I'd like to have a system because that kind of inoculates you from those types of situations.
Yeah. I think that leads really well into the next phase of this conversation, I think, which is, so why does a business need a marketing system? And under the caveat, for sure, like when we're working with clients, if there's kind of an ideal profile that we work with, although we do help businesses that are at a less marketing mature stage, who need to just invest a little bit in order to get them to the next stage. But from an ideal standpoint, in order to implement a true marketing system like what we're looking at in this image, we often look at businesses that are $1 million plus in annual revenue, 5+ employees, because that fits an awful lot of businesses that have invested some into their marketing in the past. They're ready to take the marketing to the next level. And they've probably experienced what it's like not to have a marketing system in their business. So at this point, it would be great if we could just do kind of a round table of the marketing guides. If you could share from your personal experience what happens when a marketing system isn't present in a business, what you guys have experienced. Maybe it's with when prospects come through your door, or you've taken on a new client and you've been able to turn them from a non-systematic approach to a systematic approach. What were the challenges that they were experiencing prior to having a marketing system, and what problems does a marketing system solve for them? So Ken, why don't you start, since you're at the top of the picture list here?
Yeah, I mean, I guess one of the things that jumps to my mind is, we've certainly worked with clients where all they were doing is writing checks to pay for ads, and they do it, they turn it off, they get busy, or they get frustrated with how much they were paying, and a pure paid ad strategy can wind up being pretty expensive. There are cheaper forms of customer acquisition in many cases for many businesses. And so, it was easy. It's pretty easy to just, write a check to, ad platform or ad salesperson, whoever you're dealing with. And many people think that that's, their marketing, that's the source to generate leads. When you do start to put a marketing system in place, I mean, our experience is that, their eyes kind of open up and they're like, wow, okay, this is pretty cool. And, I know you've got a question for me here, so I'm not later on down the road, so I'm not going to jump into that. But yeah, I would say that it's either doing one-off tactics or relying on the heroic efforts of an individual or two, but without any pre-planned set of goals or objectives. Mm-hmm. Loosely defined, it's like, just go get me some leads. Okay, mm-hmm. Well, how much does that cost? Are they the right leads? You run into that.
Yeah. What about you, Paul?
What about me? What'd I do?
Exactly.
When you look at this graph, if you look at the first four, you start with the website. And a lot of times I think we have people come to us and they ask about SEO services because that's all they know to ask for. And the level of SEO a business needs varies depending on the business. We touched on that, but the content platform is number two, because we've had businesses that they have practically no content whatsoever on their website, and they want SEO services. Well, you can't SEO a website with no content. You have to have something to work with, and I think a lot of business owners don't realize that you have to have content before you can do search engine optimization. And then you look at social media. We've seen businesses that all they do is social media. Well, you don't own, and I think Jen mentioned this, you don't own or control that platform. The only thing you own and control is your website. So that's why you start with the website, because these social media platforms, they can do whatever they want, whenever they want, change whatever they want. And if you're relying solely on social media, you can get screwed, because you can't control that platform, but you can control your website. So you start with your website, you have a content strategy, then you can do search engine optimization to whatever level you need. And yes, social media is important, and you should definitely not ignore it in any way. And like Jen said, you don't let your own personal biases influence that. But keep in mind, you have no control over what that platform may do in the future.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. I've heard of, in fact, I know one in particular, a business where they lost their ability to advertise on Facebook, and that was where 100% of their leads were coming from. And they had to pivot very quickly because they could not get back on that platform because Facebook had a problem with what they were doing, even though they were within the rules. One of the
they probably posted a picture of a remodeled bathroom.
A smiling person or something.
Yeah. Facebook will reject your ads for absolutely no reason.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, if all you're doing is building your business on Facebook and Facebook ads, man, you're playing with fire.
Yeah. One of the things, Jen, I want to ask you the same question, but one of the things that's popped up as kind of a consistent thread through this conversation, I think, that would be helpful just to share a little bit is that one way to see the value or to uncover the value of a marketing system in your business is, and I think this question was asked a few times by Jen and Paul and Ken, but if you start at stage 7 of pay-per-click advertising and you say, okay, we're going to do some advertising. Well, what are we going to say? What are we going to share? What lead magnets are we going to use? Who are we going to target? All of that leads backwards through this and uncovers more need, which will ultimately take you back to the strategy. So even if you go, stage 6, email marketing, what are we going to share? Social media engagement, what are we going to share? Search engine optimization, who are our targets? What keywords are they looking for? What content are we going to use in order to attract people to those keywords? Content platform. Well, what content do we need? What keyword research have we done? What are people hungry for? And then on the website, a lot of businesses think, well, I'll just build a new website. It needs a new look. In fact, we, oftentimes when people come to us for a new website, it's because they realize that the pain of their current website, both from a look and feel standpoint, is horrible because they've left it too long. But then they also understand it's not generating leads for them, which again, ultimately leads you back to, well, who are you trying to attract? Who's your ideal client? What's your keyword strategy? What's your offer? What's your core difference? All of which is built out into your in your strategy. I always equate it to using the car analogy. If you were to build a car, and you had multiple people coming up or as having disparate parts that they were going to make for your car, but they had no overarching plan, the car would never work, right? Like it would defy logic for it to magically come together, except that's how a lot of businesses view their marketing is, I'm just going to hire a web guy, a search engine person, a social media gal, whatever it is. And somehow this is all going to naturally and cohesively work for the betterment of my business. And yes, I can check off now that those things are being done, but it's just as it's ridiculous to expect a car to naturally create itself from, 4 different people with 4 different ideas of what success looks like, without a blueprint to follow for all of them and how they're interconnecting. The same is true with a marketing system, I think. So Jen, same question for you. What have you seen as some of the biggest problems when you don't have a marketing system in place?
When you don't have a system in place, well, I guess I have 2 different examples. One is if the business has not been exposed to what a website really can do for your business, I've found that can be very, very limiting. So for example, not knowing that, leads could come in, or not making sure that the leads come into the right place once that form field is entered. Just the idea, I mean, we always talk about it as if it is your 24/7 salesperson. I mean, like, if you start to think of it that way, what else can this thing be doing for me? And to no fault of their own, perhaps they have only been exposed to someone that built their website as a web designer. So you have a very fine website, but as for, a 24/7 salesperson, that website is not working the way it could. So just not knowing how many of these elements can be really, in effect, I know it sounds a little bit funny, but in effect, part of your marketing team, to be quite honest. And another thing we found is, a heavy reliance on social media, but then not understanding what, like, I suppose it is the funnel, but also like the customer path. And what I mean by that, for example, we have run into some business owners who have said, we're posting on social, but like nothing's really happening with it. So, okay, well, what are you posting? Well, we're posting about our services. We have 6 different services, Okay, let's see. So you go see a post on social media about, ABC service. Great. You try to click through to go to the website to learn more. There's no link to click, or it clicks through to the general homepage, and then making the person go hunt through your website to find out where's the information on the service that first caught my eye on social media. And then physically showing them that path and showing them the hurdles that unexpectedly they expect this potential customer to go through to find out more information about you, has been stalled as well. So it's just, I think too, nowadays with social media and so much of our marketing elements being so much the part of the general public's knowledge, it feels like it should be easier than it actually is to settle this stuff up and get it going for your business. Because it's time, get your website going within 24 hours. You could be selling and be a millionaire within 6 hours. Like the expectations that they are sold, it does not match with reality. So those are a couple of examples I've seen with like very much point solutions, and just the misunderstanding of what these elements can really do for your business.
Yeah, those are good examples. And I think there's a lot of disservice out there to businesses in, Wix commercials, Shopify commercials, GoDaddy commercials, right? They create this impression that if you build it, they will come. And that's simply not true. If you don't build it properly, and if you don't have a system around it.
Yeah.
Jen, most systems of any kind have governing systems to ensure they're working optimally. In the case of a marketing system, are there similar things, and can you describe some of them?
There are similar things, such as the strategy, the marketing plan that we talked about, your marketing calendar. So how are you taking that plan and making sure that either your ads or your email newsletter is coming out at a certain cadence every week or every month? So there's those guardrails that can keep you right on track and make sure that your system is working and all the processes are in place in order to get your stuff out on time. It also also helps keep you basically on the straight and narrow about what you've committed to for your business. Now, having said that, it also makes me think that, not every little shiny object that comes out is so bad. And there has to be some time for, some experimentation. Either setting aside a certain amount of your budget to experiment, or a certain amount of time or effort. Perhaps that should be another podcast on how to effectively do that without totally going off the rails, really. Because there's got to be time for that, because there'll be opportunities that you don't know will be good for your business that you got to give it a try. But generally, sticking to your marketing calendar, your strategy, your project management system, and just making sure that the consistency is happening before you start to add anything else into the mix.
I would even jump in to say things like, brand standards. If you're going to be doing social media posting, don't just use any color. You make sure that it's consistent so that your brand is recognized when you're doing things. Anything that helps provide quality assurance to build in. Testing, is one of the great things about digital marketing is you can test a lot of different things. So A/B testing, where you change an element on a landing page to see, if I change the picture, do I get a better performance? That's a governing factor that you can incorporate into your marketing system. And we talked about the levels of maturity. I mean, you're getting into a more mature, sophisticated marketing system when you're doing those things. But yeah, I mean, I love the fact that you brought up the word governing or controls, because I started my business career as a systems analyst, and a systems analyst, what do? You look at inputs, outputs, controls, and mechanisms. So the controls are what governs. The mechanisms are the tools that you utilize, or the materials that you utilize and consume. Inputs, are again going to be information or raw materials coming in to produce that product. And so at a very simple level, those 5 things are what you need to have in place to have a system. And then that's just for a single element. And then you have to connect all of these things together, right? So governance is a critical component of systems. And that's where, when I talk about the heroic efforts of a single individual, they may have their own kind of guides, but it's probably not aligned with what the company can or should have put in place. It may still be working for you, but you're going to find out the hard way if that person ever leaves, if they get hit by a bus, or, a variety of things.
Yeah. Or burnout.
Yeah.
One of the things I didn't ask specifically in this question, but as you were talking, both of you, and we didn't even talk about this when we were talking about the strategy, but I think one of the governing factors as well is what you choose as your reporting structure and measurement structure. So your key success ingredients that you define at the strategy stage with the client or for your business. And for a lot of businesses, that might be, hey, we need X number of leads per month, or we have a client where it's, we need our ad spend to be X times ROI, right? That's what success looks like for them. And so every month we're reporting on their key performance indicators in order for them to know, and for us to know as well as their marketing partner, are we achieving that goal? Are we falling short? What's happening there? Are we blowing it out of the water? So yeah, I think reporting is a real key element as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's how you measure the success of your outcomes.
Yeah. Ken, you've used the term, excuse me, not in this particular call, but I love this term. You've used it for years now, and I really like it. But you've used in the past the term force multiplier when we've talked about marketing systems. Can you share more about this concept and how it applies to a marketing system?
Yeah. So, I mean, really, if you just do a series of one-off tactics, here or there, you're missing massive opportunity. If you write a blog post and expect a lot of people to come and read it on your website, you're probably going to be disappointed. You get an amplification or a force multiplier effect when you put in an email marketing system where you're driving traffic back to read that blog on your blog post. Guess what? That gives you a boost in your SEO because now you're getting people to spend quality time on your website, even if they didn't find you through organic search, but they were driven there because they read something in an email that you put out to them. You're getting them on their site. They're spending time on site. Those are signals for SEO. Doing a social media post to increase the visibility, again, in a different way beyond just an email marketing channel, multiplies. And so when you look at, and the totality of the system, and here I'll throw it back up on the screen. When you look at all of these things, if you do these things in conjunction, you should be getting this force multiplier effect. One of the things that we've talked about in past episodes, and I think this is a real obvious thing for maybe too many businesses because we all experience it. Hopefully we're all experiencing it less and less, but you work hard to get a lead to your website. Somebody comes and fills out a form on your website, or they call the business phone number on your website, and you don't do anything with it, or you don't get around to it for 4 or 5 days. If you don't have a systematic way to go about responding to those, maybe even automating the response, maybe even automating a reminder to say, hey, did you know you just got this form submitted on your website? Here's their phone number, call them right now. That's an amplification because, the time that you respond, the faster you respond, the more likely you are to close the deal. And I can't tell you how many times I've heard in the last 2 or 3 months, I reached out to 2 or 3 companies and you're the only one that called me back. And, you call me back within 10 or 15 minutes or even less. And it's like, believe me, it is an incredibly important thing, even for a business like us. And I am constantly amazed how many people are in our business where our jobs are ultimately to generate leads, so that our customers can take those and turn them into sales, that they don't even respond to their own leads that they're generating. So you want to look for ways that you can amplify or have this force multiplier effect. I mean, I spent a lot of my early career working in the Department of Defense. And I mean, I just think that phrase is so powerful because you can do all of these individual things, but if you want to take it to the next level and you want to get that amplification effect, what better way than to get everything working in concert with one another where they're all working to uplift everything. You're making that investment already. Let's make the investment to make it so that everything is uplifted.
Yeah, when you talk about force multipliers, I often think of levers, right? Because you have a big rock, you need to move it out of the way, and you have a little stick, and that little stick doesn't give you enough leverage. But if you find a longer stick with more leverage, I kind of view that as a linear way to think about this marketing system. That the more elements you have working consistently, you have this, big lever that you can then move this big rock.
Yeah. I mean, that's really ultimately, I think, the greatest opportunity and reason to consider having a system in place is because if you get force multiplier effects, it's purely serendipity. It's because you're operating out of a chaotic environment. I would rather try to control that and drive that to the extent that I can to make that happen. And you can.
And if you're in a marketplace where you're one of the few competitors who are using a force multiplier, a marketing system in your business, you will win. There's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Paul, why do so few, businesses have a marketing system installed in their business?
Well, I think there's a few different reasons, probably a lot of different reasons, but some businesses probably think they have a system in place where they're just doing these one-off things, and there's no strategy behind it, and they think that they have a marketing system, and they actually don't. Part of it is implementation. We talked about response time and and automating that response if you need to. Well, how do you do that? How do you implement that? I mean, business owners are busy. They're running their business. They don't have time to deal with this crap. So, how how do you implement that? And sometimes maybe they just don't understand the value of it. How, they don't realize what if they put a system in place for their marketing, what can that do for them, and how can these processes build off one another? You have your website, and you have your content, and you have your SEO if that's appropriate for your particular business, and you put this automation in place, and you actually have internal processes for responding to leads. Like Ken said, if you the world we live in today, you can't take 2 hours even to respond to a lead. We think a couple episodes ago, we talked about how if you respond within 5 minutes, generally the first person to respond to an inquiry is probably going to get that. They're probably going to close that deal. And we live in a world where we live in an instant gratification world. People want a response immediately. And if, Ken said 4 or 5 days, God, you can't wait 4 or 5 hours. Okay. They're going to move on, because by the time someone, and we've talked about this as well, by the time someone contacts you, okay, they've done their research. You're on their short list, so to speak. They've already eliminated, 15, 20 companies, however many they've looked at. And they're down to 3 or 4 businesses that they're like, okay, which one am I going to deal with? And they've reached out to them. And at that point, the first one to get back to them is probably going to close that deal. So a lot of businesses, they don't have this information. They don't realize that's the world we live in, and they don't understand the value that a real marketing system can provide to them.
Yeah.
And I think those are probably the major reasons.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's just like, if you ask me to put a roof on your house, could I hack my way through it?
That's what YouTube's for, right, Ken?
I think there's probably a 40% chance that maybe I could. Is it a house you'd want to live in? I think there's probably a 10% chance that you would. I don't know what I don't know, right? I mean, I have it's like, okay, I know I need shingles. I know I need nails or something, to attach everything. But what I might do is basically poke a bunch of holes in the shingles, which are designed to keep the water from coming into the house. So, I don't know this stuff, right? Well, why would we expect many business owners to know all of these things in marketing? I mean, the world changes so fast. You look at the explosion of technologies. How many emails are you getting? Hey, we can get you first on Google, unsolicited, or hey, we've got this cool tool we all want to sell you, and all this kind of stuff. If you guys are like me, I mean, you get hundreds of these every month. And it's like, how do you know which are good, which are worth using? Just because you might pick one that is good, that's not necessarily enough, because it's a one-dimensional kind of a thing. So I think this is complicated stuff. It doesn't have to be hard, but you have to have an understanding of it to simplify it. And I think our goal, all of our goals is to simplify marketing for our clients, because our job is to know and be students and experts at all this stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot of moving parts, it's so someone goes to your website and they fill out a form. Now what happens? How do you automate that response? How quickly do you get back to them? There's, building a sales funnel. There's a lot of moving parts in there, and it takes time and expertise to put that in place.
Yeah. Guys, I know we're running long. I really wanted to ask one more question, but I want to be mindful of your time. Do you have a couple more minutes for us to do this last question? All
Yes.
right. So, because I think this wraps it up really nicely, is the proof, as they say, is in the pudding. So, does a marketing system really produce better results? So, I wanted to go around our circle here, our rectangle, and and see if you guys, if each guide could share some results you've seen in the real world that might encourage some of our listeners to take a step into introducing a marketing system into their business.
Mhm.
So, Ken, why don't you start?
Okay, well, I mean, really, we always looked for upward trends when we start working with somebody. We try to create some, some baseline metrics. Usually, it's around form submissions, phone calls, things like that. As you get more and more sophisticated, you might start to look at cost per acquisition numbers and things like that. But I mean, honestly, for a lot of the clients that we work with, we're our first goal is just how do we start generating more qualified leads? And here's a news flash: if you're doing a really good job of SEO for somebody, um, even if they may still not get great quality leads all the time, because guess what? You're helping them rank, and you can't control what other people are searching for. I mean, if they don't do repair, for example, they only do installation of complete projects. um, they're going to get leads that aren't necessarily relevant. But the good news is it's proving that they're being found and that they're dominating those types of search results. But yeah, I mean, I think just the biggest thing is to see an increase of two, three, fourfold leads that are coming in for businesses over several months time frame after you've implemented a system where you've got all this stuff working in concert with one another.
Yeah, yeah, perfect. Paul?
Well, yeah, this is going to sound kind of counterintuitive, but we've had businesses that we've worked with and rebuilt their website, start developing content, and they'll contact us and say, look, I'm I'm in Indiana, Missouri, whatever, and I have people filling out forms, or I'm getting calls from people in New York, and they're a service area business. Like, well, that just means that you're ranking really well and people are finding you. I get it. I understand what you're saying. People are calling you from, 1,000 miles away, but that just means that what we're doing is working. You're ranking.
Yeah, and sometimes the next step in the system is to create a qualification tool where it actually asks people, where are you from? That maybe it's part of your form, maybe it's something that's a pop-up.
Yeah,
Excuse me.
there's things that you can do in that regard, but ultimately, a lot of times people they they don't look at the phone number on the website, or they don't look at the address. If your address is on the website, they search for something, your website pops up, and they're like, oh, this is what I'm looking for, and they go directly to the contact page and fill out a form. And that's usually where it is they just fill out a contact form, not realizing that this business is on the other side of the country.
Yeah, yeah. What about you, Jen?
I have a good story. It involves a salesperson. So I always love it when marketing can help sales, because I mean, that's what we're here for. But it's especially in IT, where they all think we're the arts and crafts department. So anyways, so how we helped this one company is through the marketing system, through developing a lot of content. So they sold, let's just say generally they were in IT, and that we had a very frequent blog process that would go out. And then we also were doing some executive profile raising. And what that means is taking the blog that executive had written and making sure it went out onto LinkedIn. So it would go out onto that executive's into their network. And we had been doing this for several months. And one day we got the salesperson to come on the call, and he had said, I did a sales call today with a major national account that we're hoping to win. And one of the first things that the group said to me as I went in to present was like, yeah, we've been reading your articles on LinkedIn. And he was, first of all, ego. He loved that, right? But second of all, he said, it really helped make the first sales presentation go all that much easier, because the type of things that we had him sharing on LinkedIn, and this is as a LinkedIn article, so it looks like you're blogging right on LinkedIn, and it was the blog that was also on the website. So we've got, double duty going on there, but were common objections. Common sales objections that he would come across when presenting to previous clients. So he was able to have the content address the objection, explain it, and then bring the reader along that much faster. And as well, he was able, in this situation, the group making the decision had felt very trustworthy with him ahead of him coming into the presentation. So long and the short of it, he did get the deal. That was his doing, but the ability to really warm up the room and warm up the contact really actually did happen because of our work with this marketing system and producing content in a steady way.
And I love it too, that I'm sure strategy dictated what he would share, right? Like that's what gave him the ideas for what content to share. So
yeah,
great example. Yeah, I mean, we have, just like you guys, we have lots of examples where we've been able to increase organic traffic by thousands of %, right? Like there's lots of great stories like that. But the ones that I think are the most impactful are, the orthodontist that we were able to help grow over a 3-year period that became a merger target, and then ultimately merged with 2 other orthodontists, right? And became a much larger organization. Or the companies where we were tracking return on investment. So what's the return on their marketing investment? And those are the ones where you can say, hey, a lead is worth this amount, and we're tracking it every month. But we're able to convert your paid leads by X return on investment, and we're able to do this amount, excuse me, for organic leads. And we've been able to show how we've grown that by double-digit growth year over year for clients. And I think that's where it's important to share those results, because otherwise clients, they go by gut feeling oftentimes, or by how much compensation they're paying out to their sales team. And so, we've seen tremendous success with marketing systems in our clients' businesses. I think this is a good place to wrap up, guys. Thank you, Ken, Paul, and Jen, for sharing your thoughts and for being our marketing guides today. And thank you for our audience for joining us today. I hope you found this topic valuable. If so, please share the link to it with other businesses who can benefit from it. And until next week, keep calm and market on.